Hello and welcome everybody to this latest Channel Vision Magazine webinar. Today we are hosting kind of a two-part webinar featuring Abundant IoT and PiKNiK, covering some of the exciting partner and provider opportunities involving blockchain technology and the benefits of the Web3 movement that utilizes blockchain. This discussion will include a look at the value and benefits of Helium long-flight networks and the corresponding IoT sensor solutions, and how ESG initiatives and new federal energy-efficient incentives are changing how companies view their energy bills. We'll also look at decentralized storage utilizing blockchain and the savings it presents compared to the traditional data storage solutions. I'm your moderator today, Martin Villebois, editor of Channel Vision Magazine. Our presenters today are Vince Bradley, CEO of Abundant IoT, and Michael Fair, Chief Revenue Officer at PiKNiK. Hello, gentlemen. Thanks for being here today. At this time, we'll get things started. I'd like to introduce Vince Bradley, CEO of Abundant IoT. Hello, Vince.
Thanks so much, Martin, and thanks everyone for joining today. Super exciting to talk about the next wave in the channel. Some things coming up for the channel today. And with that, I want to get going here. So you can see on the screen here, we were super excited to be ranked one of the top 10 IoT providers by CIO Review this summer. And we also really enjoyed the accolade of winning Best in Show for our partner and provider program at the Channel Partners Show in Las Vegas earlier this year. One of the reasons we got that accolade, I believe, is because of the legendary long-fi network and what it's able to do in ecosystems. At Abundant IoT, we orchestrate business ecosystems, and we are coining the phrase EIoT, which is basically IoT with a focus on energy. People always talk about mobility when they talk about energy, but 35% of the TAM, the total addressable market in IoT, is energy services. You can kind of see that here on the screen if you look at the horizontal aspects of this smart city, and all of this stuff now has sensors. So the question is, why have a disparate energy and IoT network? Why not put them in the same network? And that's what we do at Abundant IoT. We also use blockchain technology and LoRaWAN combined to create long-fi, which enables businesses to do business. It may be a lower power and a lower bandwidth network, but it reaches much further, and hence the name long-fi. The possibilities are endless with this technology as it relates. And you can see on the bottom of the screen, devices and sensors is where it all starts. And we do have access to over 1,000 sensors to customize for customers, but we also put all of this together for customers as well. On this next slide, you can see that so many different applications that are out there for IoT solutions. And we love this slide because every time we talk to someone about it and they see this slide, they always have solutions that they've come up with. And there's just so many opportunities in this $1 trillion market of IoT. We even built a better mousetrap. All joking aside, think about it this way. When you talk about ESG and sustainability, listening to a podcast the other day where they talked about how IoT is sustainable. And the exciting thing about it is that, as an example, the amount of carbon that you would put into a small sensor to detect something in that mousetrap you see on the lower right-hand corner of the screen is by far outweighed by the amount of time it takes for someone to drive out there and look at that trap. And so that's a golden opportunity right there within that. So great example of that and a great example of what's possible there. So moving on to the next slide, we can see here, again, talking about the $1 trillion IoT network and long-fi, customers that are utilizing the Helium long-fi network and blockchain are able to do things that others cannot. Take an example of a 1 mile long warehouse, and 10% of that warehouse needs high-speed data, Wi-Fi, maybe in the corporate space, but the other 90% doesn't. And that's because it has on-off, open-close sensor devices, which don't require that high bandwidth. Well, then why are customers paying 90% more than they need to for that infrastructure? If you look at the lower left-hand corner of the slide, you can see where it's like a 15-to-1 ratio actually Helium long PHY gateways to access points. So for new construction, add-on construction, retrofits, Helium is a great solution to augment the IoT network, and it's a differentiator with Abundant IoT's solution. On the right, you can see 12 of the most popular sensors, going all the way from an electric panel submeter that allows you to split off the electricity of a building so you can account for it appropriately, down to a panic button, which is very popular today. One of my favorite projects I've worked on lately is a huge project to save the forest in California, a huge grant from the state of California, putting solar in the tree, putting a Helium gateway underneath it, putting a temperature humidity sensor in, and then a SIM card. We've got a first responder in the family who has told us these fires go for an hour, that's it. They can't say how long it's going to take to get it out. But if the smoke or the heat hits that sensor, they have a chance to get in there and do that, just that, get that fire out faster. Helium has tremendous opportunities, and so that combination of LoRaWAN and blockchain is incredible. Moving on to the energy space where we talk about EIoT, you can see our portfolio here. We've all got, electricity and natural gas bills. Right now, those have doubled and tripled. We can help with those solutions because we've got access to all of the different providers out there. And we've also got an amazing app that I'll mention in a minute. But just know that when it comes to energy procurement, that's the bread and butter of the energy business, and we can help with that. Energy efficiency, whether it's LED lighting or HVAC, we can also help with those as well. Distributed generation, like a microgrid, which is basically the connection of a solar with a battery backup to create what we call BCDR in the telecom channels. And the idea there is that the customer, no one can afford to be down anymore. So the idea there is that you've got redundancy. When it comes to water solutions, one of the sensors you may have seen on the last slide was a leak detection sensor, great for metro areas, because by the time you see that leak, it's too late. So the sensors can help to avoid that. Also, we have a valve that can take the air out of the water, saving customers 30% on their water usage. This is a tremendously popular product right now, especially with droughts and everyone needing to save money at this time. On the lower part of the screen, you can see EV charging ecosystems. That's compensable in a couple different ways, both the sourcing of the charging station, as well as the SaaS in it, the software, which is recurring revenue. Good opportunity with EV right now, especially with the Inflation Reduction Act incentives of over $100 billion. Energy building management, the BMS, the building management system, enables management of all sensors and devices from one pane of glass. This makes it much easier to operate an enterprise and to be as efficient as possible and make sure that you don't have issues in the facility. Energy expense management, like we know telecom expense management, this just expands that out to say, we're going to look at your spend on telecom IT, but we're also going to look at your energy spend, which is a big part. And again, some of you have probably heard me talk about the upsell motion. We've all had a background in the one big utility of telecom, and now upselling the other big utility of energy is much easier, especially right now when everyone needs to save money and be more efficient as we do more cloud proliferation. Finally, waste management, and that's more of an enterprise product, but we can help with saving money on the motions of waste management, but also to be more efficient in the way it's managed itself. So good opportunities here in the energy space. This slide goes into a little bit of the different states and what the opportunities are. You can see from the map which states are deregulated, which ones are not, which ones are partial deregulation, etc. And this is actually an interactive map on our website. So you can also see the energy efficiency incentives by clicking on the different states. And you can see from the right side of the slide that we are in one of the biggest, actually the biggest upmarket ever at this point. And so there's some golden opportunities in this space right now for everyone. We have an app that helps to manage this. What's nice about this app is it saves time. because you can put everything in one system, helps you to shop, buy, and manage energy better. Clearing the market in one tool. In other words, you don't have to get those 3 bids you used to get. Basically, we can look at every single opportunity in one motion. The API also connects directly to the utility, which is nice. So it's completely automated and it uses AI. So again, an opportunity to buy and manage smart, and it's also a central repository for all contracts. As you can see on this screen, in the middle, the portfolio summary is an example of this particular customer has 11 locations, and you can see everything from the current rate to the annual usage, cost. You can even see projected spend mid-month, so you can help manage your costs better. So this app does tremendous things for customers, especially multi-location customers. So we encourage you to reach out to us about that if we can help you with it. Great example of how the app has tremendous value was the Texas winter storm last year. Customers were using the app, and what was nice about it was because of the energy event going on, the system actually pinged them and said, lock your rate. You're currently on a variable rate product, and we need to get you on a fixed rate product before you get hit by this storm. Saved over $250,000 for those customers in our ecosystem. So just a great example of the power of that app. Community solar is also an excellent way to defray costs today, and it also helps with the ESG journey, which is the theme of this call. What's nice about this is if there's no roof or a small roof, you can still tap the local community solar farm. And you can see there are some of the states that participate in that program. Very easy motion. You really don't have to do anything. You just start saving at least 10% off of your bill for signing up with the local farm. You also can get acknowledgement for doing that. So you've helped with that ESG journey once again. This is one that we're super excited about. We are the lead distributor for this product, and you can see some really great logos on the lower part of the screen here, whether it's real estate or hospitality or automotive. There's a very strong amount of customers that have already joined into this product set. If you haven't heard about harmonics, what you should know about it is that it's created from the nonlinear loads, AC to DC. It generates heat and noise. And what happens? Higher bills, equipment failure, higher carbon footprint, and wasted kilowatt hours. So if you don't know what harmonics are, just remember the last time you charged your cell phone, because that's harmonics when it gets hot. That's exactly what it is, only on a larger scale. Here is an example of the savings, which right now you can see on the left there, there's over 30 states that currently cannot switch their electricity service. And so they're stuck right now with what they're paying for electricity, which is 2 to 3 times more than they have in the past. And so this is a great opportunity to help those customers, particularly those in hospitality and real estate or office buildings. You can see there are 15%, a significant savings, especially right now in this up market, with an average of about 12% on that. Right here is a great example of the Tune filter and what it can do. Actually, if you see right there in the middle, this was installed just over 2 years ago. Look at the peak demand spikes on the left, 3,000 kilowatt hour peak demand spikes. We have a data center customer who's billed over $50,000 from one of those kinds of spikes. So again, there's golden opportunities out there to help customers with many things. What I love about this case study also is you can see here on the right, both on impact and ESG ratings, which are happening right now. These are some of the early adopter ESG companies on the right. This also helps with that ESG journey that is so important right now, especially in the enterprise. What's nice about the Tune solution is that it can save up to 20% on the electric bill, and there's a guarantee of at least 5%. So they are definitely backing up the claims about their savings, and they've got tons of case studies to back it up. And again, it's nice because it also protects the equipment, because the equipment gets damaged from that bad power. Also, sustainability. It helps, again, like I said, with ESG. These devices typically last 15, 20 years. They're very robust. So golden opportunity there with the Tune filter. And again, another way to start that ESG journey. Speaking of ESG, this is a great slide that talks a little bit about the opportunity in ESG and what can be done there. And just so everyone knows, ESG stands for environmental and social governance. Like a DNB or FICO score, everyone will have a carbon rating, and Filecoin Green can give grants to help on this ESG journey. So there's tremendous opportunities in this space. It's the perfect time to get involved in upselling energy and EIoT and get into Web3 at the same time. And when I say this, there's 3 great reasons to start right now. One, again, we're in the biggest upmarket ever. People are getting sticker shock when they open their bills right now. And that's an opportunity for you to get in the market. ESG, again, I've talked about it a little bit, but it is also a great opportunity for everyone to get in and upsell the other big utility into their base. This is the time. And we've talked about this in the past, but there could never be a better time than right now with what's going on out there. And then finally, the Inflation Reduction Act. This has created over $100 billion in incentives for these customers. Just recently looking at the Illinois market, where they're now paying 80% of an EV charging motion. There was nothing like that before. So they literally will pay for most of the project in the incentives with the Inflation Reduction Act. So again, very exciting times here with the space. And with that, I want to hand it back to Martin.
All right, Vince, thank you very much. Like I said earlier, any questions that we want to direct to Vince, we'll deal with those at the end of the webinar, and we'll go ahead and move towards our second part. At this time, I'd like to introduce Michael Fair, Chief Revenue Officer at PiKNiK. Hello, Michael.
Hello, great to see everyone. Appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. So I'm going to talk to you. The common theme really between what you just heard with Vince and PiKNiK is that we are bringing blockchain technologies to the channel, and that's our goal with this, right? PiKNiK and Filecoin, I'm going to be talking about decentralized storage at scale and how we manage that today. So who is PiKNiK, right? PiKNiK is the largest storage provider on the Filecoin network worldwide. We're headquartered in San Diego, La Jolla specifically. And you can see our team members come from very large companies such as McKinsey, AWS, Dell, Deloitte, Google, et cetera. So deep experience both from the technical and the business aspects as to how to get managed within Filecoin and manage storage, right? So deep expertise in that. What is the opportunity with Filecoin and with PiKNiK? So what we do is storage, right? Storage is exploding everywhere today. The need to save data, the need to store that. Many companies and enterprises cannot afford to store all the data that they generate, right? And so that's what we do, is give them a viable opportunity to store more of their data at a cost-effective price, right? So we're a blockchain-enabled token. And storage tokens worldwide are worth about $4 billion today, even after the prices have come down. And Filecoin is by far the largest at $1.6 billion of market cap, right? So this is a global phenomenon right now. We're the largest provider in the world today, and bringing that capability into the channel. Both agents and data center operators, and I'm going to address both types of opportunities here. Really as to how do you participate in that, and what you want to manage downside risk of not participating in this. Think of this as the Airbnb or the Uber of storage. And what I liken it to is, 8 years ago, a taxi cab medallion cost over $1 million in New York. And today that's worth about $25,000 because of Uber entering the market and crushing the valuation of an existing incumbent, right? And that's what's happening within storage today. So if you look at who our competitors are, they're Web 2 companies such as AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud, and AT&T, and anyone else that stores data today. So this is an alternative to that. So Web 3 storage is decentralized, it's open architecture, it's censor resistant, And there's 4,000 providers on this network today, right? So what we're doing is bringing data into that network. We also, and I'll talk a little bit about this shortly, do things to enable other storage providers to get into this ecosystem and participate with us, right? So Filecoin is developed by Protocol Labs. Think of them as the venture entity behind this. They manage the ecosystem and the blockchain. But the storage is actually decentralized throughout these 4,000 providers worldwide. There's a very strong developer network. Again, it's open source infrastructure, so each storage provider develops their own applications on top of that and own value-added capabilities on top of that. And there's 7,000 providers that do that alone. And we are actually a developer. About half of our staff of 40 are software developers and half are storage management entities, right? So what we are is a go-to pure play storage provider for you as an alternative to any incumbent storage provider today out there. Our history was we were founded back in October 2020. So we're 2 years old. We sealed our first petabyte of data. Sealing is the terminology and technology for getting the data into the network back in January of last year. And this slide shows our tremendous growth over the past year. As of September, we're at 90 petabytes and we're well over 100 petabytes of data on the network today. So growing very, very rapidly. So what is Web3, right? I think you hear the terminology a lot. And what Vince and I are doing are bringing Web3 technologies to agents and data center operators today. So you can participate in that today. So think of Web3 as, I define it as the internet that's owned by users and builders. It's on blockchain technology. It's orchestrated by these tokens out there. And if you look at the middle column here, you see a lot of very familiar companies in each of these categories. So Vince was just talking about IoT, right? So IoT providers like AT&T and Verizon are well known for that, but they're very expensive. The Web3 alternative to that is Helium, and Vince mentioned Helium, and Vince is a distributor, but IoT is a distributor for Helium. Likewise for storage, AWS and Azure are competitors for storage. We're simply the Web3 version of that, which changes the economics, and we have very unique capabilities for being on the blockchain. And you also see other elements in here like compute and VPN. So you're going to see more of these companies move into the channel and be opportunities, but today only really Helium and Filecoin are what's available that I'm aware of in the channel today. So what are the characteristics of Filecoin and decentralized storage, right? So you're moving from a centralized world where your data may be in either Azure with Microsoft or with AWS, but it's often not in both. And in fact, those are different protocols and different islands of capabilities, right? So what we do is we work with the 4,000 other providers out there in the Filecoin ecosystem, where data can be replicated and moved between those providers to give further resiliency anywhere in the world. There's no egress charges, right? So if you want to get your data out of Azure or out of AT&T or anyone like that, there's often very large costs to do that. So in the centralized world today, data is audited and it's exposed. The coolest thing about the blockchain is that what it does is the data monitors and audits the data, and it reports back to the customer that the data has not changed. And I'm going to give a very, very specific example of this shortly. That's, I think, the best value of the blockchain is it provides that proof that the data is immutable and has not been affected. You can think about the various applications when you come to legal applications or bringing data into a lawsuit, for example, or drug research where drugs need to be approved, but they need to demonstrate the origin of the data so the data cannot be changed or manipulated. So there's going to be a lot of business applications that are going to take advantage of this in the future. You know, highly concentrated market, moving to a lot of flexibility around the world. Very expensive to save your data today. Often customers don't even store all the data that they can afford. They can't afford to store all the data that they create IoT is creating a lot of data, 5G is creating a lot of data. A lot of participants cannot afford to save all that. What we find when we start talking to enterprise customers, that they often start saving more data because they simply couldn't afford it in the past, right? And it's also, you're moving from a rigid one-size-fits-all, take it or leave it kind of environment to a very customizable and fluid type of environment where there's a lot of creativity by each storage provider on the network. So if any of you are agents, trusted advisors out there today, you're selling services, you're used to receiving SPIFs, right? So what are SPIFs? SPIFs are compensation that's generated, and some of them don't make any sense if you're paying 10x SPIFs, right? A lot of these are from the UCAS and CCAS examples here, $100,000, $50,000, 6 times monthly recurring charges, right? The service providers lose money when they're doing this. Why do they do that? They do that to gain market share. Where does the money come from? It comes from venture capital funds. You're going to start seeing these coming down radically right now. We're also seeing big layoffs in this area today too, because these companies cannot sustain these kind of economics. The money came from venture capital to generate market share grab. And it's very similar to what we call block rewards, which are the financial mechanisms within the ecosystem that generate a form of bootstrapping to us, right? So think of the block rewards as really a form of subsidy that allows us to give pricing below market rates that are out there today and allow customers to store more data. This is a chart that just shows kind of the history of data. I think everyone here fully understands that, going back into the 80s, where you've got direct attached storage through network attached storage, cloud services, and private and public cloud. And now you're moving into this world of cloud enabled by blockchain and Web3, focused by Protocol Labs and Filecoin. So what type of data do we store, right? If you look at Filecoin is a perfect archived tier today. Think of it as a backup service today for a very low economic return, right? So we can, your value proposition to us as a customer is, how would you like yet more copies of your data, and copies mean more than one, anywhere in the world for very, very low price? It gives you a lot more resiliency to that. And if you're a data center operator or storage provider that has customers that you store data for, you can replicate that data and make more money off of the same customer. So again, this is not hot storage today. There are growth mechanisms in place that we're moving into hot storage and compute over data, smart contracts and things like that that are going to be part of the ecosystem next year. This chart shows what we call PiKNiK basket. And what this is, we really are like a Web 2.5 company is PiKNiK, right? So we take data in the current environment, Web 3, or Web 2, sorry, and have our own S3 interface, which is a typical interface that you use to bring in data into AWS, for example. And we call that PiKNiK basket, that where the data is managed and it's sharded and it's created what we're called car files, which are the file packaging required to move into the Filecoin ecosystem. And then we orchestrate that data to other participants around the world. The customer picks where that data goes and which data centers operators it goes to. So it's the same way that today that you operate with a customer. They have full ability to dictate where that data goes. And you're very involved in helping them decide where it goes anywhere in the world. So what does pricing mean, right? So this chart shows very expensive pricing. There's a lot of variability to the types of pricing that's out there in the marketplace today. You see the lower prices on here from tape storage or Amazon Deep Glacial Service are really elements that show much lower price points, around 99 cents per terabyte of storage per month. We often can undercut that based on the type of data that it is. And in some cases, like we do with some of the university customers, which I'll talk about, we give away the service for free, and the economics justify us doing that because of the other ways that we're getting paid, much like the venture capital money that flows into traditional Web 2. We pay today $25 per terabyte as a SPIF to partners today. And that means that if you bring a petabyte of service, you'd get up to $25,000 for 1 petabyte of service. Some of our examples of our customers, right? So universities are a very large participant in this right now for two reasons. One is that they've got massive data sets. These are our customers today, right? We've got the University of California at Berkeley, where we deal with dark matter research data. San Diego Supercomputing Center, Harvard, Ohio State University, we're working with the University of Maryland right now, and the University of Southern California Shoah Foundation. These are petabytes and petabytes of service that we manage for these customers. They have so much data that they simply cannot afford to host it all today. And they also like learning about this technology as being research facilities. They want to understand what's happening in the future of data management and technology. And so we work very closely with these entities. Other verticals that are really key right now are municipalities and governments, right? So you actually can potentially get savings on your insurance for cyber insurance and insurance for hacking and things like that, because you're creating yet more copies of your data. It's much more resilient from a data backup perspective. And a lot of media houses, a lot of movie production facilities and things like that, because video is a large, very large data sets involved with video transformation and documentaries being created and things like that. So there's a lot of applications like that we work with today. Our largest customer is the Shoah Foundation. So this is a great case study. We have 8 petabytes of storage today. This is the University of Southern California. This is Steven Spielberg's foundation he put together after Schindler's List, right? Where he recorded 55,000 testimonials from survivors of the Holocaust. And we have that data stored in several data centers within the United States at PiKNiK, as well as data centers that we have around the world, including in Europe, right? And so what they really like, the Shoah Foundation likes about this, is that the data is monitored and verified back to the customer, University of Southern California, every day, that the data has not been manipulated. There are people that want you to believe the Holocaust never happened. We prove that those video testimonies for people that are not alive anymore are the actual testimonies and have not been altered by deep fakes or any other manipulation of the data today. And we're demonstrating and archiving this data for the future of mankind going forward. This is also a great case study where this data was originally housed at Amazon Azure, and the price to move this data out would have been $250,000. So PiKNiK had to go to Dallas, where the original source data was on tape, and digitize that and replicate that and encrypt it, move it to one of our data centers and move it into the Filecoin the Filecoin ecosystem. And we've completely bypassed paying those fees, but it shows how those monolithic providers today hold your data hostage. So what is your opportunity if you're a data center operator today, right? You can become a storage provider on this network anywhere in the world. You take part in an expanding global ecosystem, participating in this global marketplace for various programs where data is brought actually to you. And you can leverage existing infrastructure and space management and storage and diversify into a different species of storage. You can take advantage of these economics, as I've mentioned before, which is a form of marketing development funds that's not dilutive to your business, right? And you can compete at a material price advantage to anyone else out there like AWS. You can pick, we offer a free incubator accelerator program called ESPA, which is Enterprise Storage Provider Accelerator. We do this every quarter. The next quarter is going to be starting in January. We've done 50 companies this year, and we're going to do over 100 next year. So we welcome you to join us, and we'll help educate you through that process. What's the opportunity if you're a selling partner today, an agent, a trusted advisor? You can bring cold storage to your customers today, and you don't have to replace the existing provider. You can state, how would you like yet another copy of your data in a different technology or location at a very low cost, right? All you have to ask is, where is your storage today? How much do you pay? How much of it's cold storage? How often do you access it? And how much do you pay? And this is for large data sets too. This is not a small business application. We're looking for 100 terabytes and more of data sets, and we can do smaller ones for a proof of concept. And again, remember that the blockchain audits the data, and it's immutable. And the coolest thing about this is that it proves that every month. It's materially less than AWS, standard pricing of $1 to $2 per tip. And John Lee is the channel manager. I'm a point of contact, and I'm at michael@PiKNiK.com. And we would love to hear back from you. So with that, I'll pass it back to Martin.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks you guys for presenting this. We love to bring kind of new opportunities to the channel, and obviously blockchain is among those, and we're kind of really excited to have that evolved. Going to kind of move into the Q&A, kind of start with some general ones. We have some questions coming in, but kind of, firstly, this is kind of for both you guys. In the case of LongFi and the storage specifically, I mean, these are new technologies, and kind of, new ideas, but this is familiar sales and scenarios for a lot of our audience. Is that kind of fair to say? Oh, also, before I get on that, I want to introduce Katie Z. She is a Web 3.0 expert that is here to help us with some Q&A, some questions. Hello, Katie. Thanks for joining us. But again, to get back to that question, it's a new technology with a familiar sales scenario, kind of correct for a lot of our readers?
Yeah, I would say, on that question, LoRaWAN technology is certainly not new. It's something that's been around for a while. But when you combine LoRaWAN with blockchain, it's game changing. And it's just one of those things that's a lot of people don't understand it yet, the true power of it. I think my example of the forest kind of illustrates that in the warehouse. But it's really about, any large facility at all, anyone with the warehouse, a campus, universities, I think, apply to both forms of blockchain, right? To Michael's point, universities are big in the storage. They're also big in the IoT space as it relates to Helium. So yeah, I mean, there's an awareness happening, but it's definitely not known by most people at this time.
Right. Very good. Okay, it's kind of sticking with the kind of long-flight appointment. They're asking, it's like, how similar is this to kind of running an IoT solution on 5G or maybe managed Wi-Fi and kind of the network management? Is it pretty similar?
Yeah, it's different. I mean, LongFi, again, is a very different. LoRaWAN technology is very different. So what's interesting, though, since you mentioned that, is that Helium actually did launch. Some people may have heard about it, but they launched with T-Mobile actually in Q3, the 5G motion, which is pretty exciting because they'll be the first blockchain provider in the mobility space. So that CBRS motion with 5G is coming up. It's underway right now, but they're very different because, again, 5G is going to be something that's going to give you, it's not LongFi, right? It's basically going to be back to that warehouse example. In the middle of the warehouse is kind of where that 5G is going to be the play, right? Where the rest of the warehouse is going to need that LongFi connectivity. Very expensive to put 5G throughout an entire warehouse, I guess is what I'm saying with that one.
Right. Very good. Okay. Kind of moving to PiKNiK and maybe Michael and Katie. We have someone asking about the security features that PiKNiK offers, and I think probably that could probably lead to some kind of discussion of the security that's kind of built into blockchain, and how that handles security. I know that you mentioned the immutable reports and the auditing. That would alleviate some of those needs, but maybe you can talk about some of the security elements of blockchain.
Yeah, I can talk to that. So really, when it comes to the blockchain and overall security, the data is essentially sealed into the network, right? So that's extremely secure, right? It's never been hacked, right? It's extremely secure and not available. It's immutable and cannot be changed, right? I think whether it's cryptocurrency or traditional Web 2 technologies, even bank accounts or anyone's accounts, you've heard a lot about cryptocurrencies being hacked, right? What that is someone's IDs to their wallets have been identified and hacked somehow, right? It's the same thing as someone getting your password into your bank account, right, into your credit card account, which happens all the time. It's really loose management of your own IDs, right? So the same thing exists in crypto as it does in the regular, in the traditional world, with protecting your capabilities and your codes yourself, right? So the whole inherent platform is extremely secure because it's separate from that kind of key management that everyone has to maintain protocols. We've gone through full SOC compliance, for example. Each storage provider on the network has their own protocols around wallet management, around security protocols and also certifications, right? So if you look at HIPAA compliance, if you look at FedRAMP compliance, right? If you look at all the kinds of different types of certifications on different verticals, each different storage provider, just like they do today in Web 2, are also undergoing those same certifications in Web 3, right? So it's no different than that, right? So that's really at the very high level on security, but it's it's a highly secure infrastructure that really has not been hacked at all anywhere in the world today.
Okay, so among those 4,000 different sites, they're each providing their own security as well as kind of the excuse me, the security that's built into blockchain, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, and part of the whole also another safeguard, if you will, is replicating more copies of the data, right? So that's what we are all about, is working with peers to bring replicate copies of the data to each other, right? We are incented, some of the economic incentives that we have, incent us to bring replicants copies to other participants, and likewise they bring them to us, right? Okay. So instead of having a copy of your backup, you could have 2 or 3 or 5 copies, and you can choose where in the world those copies go, right? The Shoah Foundation data, for example, is managed within multiple copies within the United States, as well as it's been replicated in Asia and in Europe, Germany particularly, which is very interesting when you think about the Holocaust, right? So the specific customer can dictate where that data is, and we help orchestrate that and vet who the other providers are. We have a certification system-wide that we can rely on to help identify who are the providers out there that we know can scale with us and have the same type of redundancy baked into their data center operations that we do.
Okay, very good, very good. We have a question also about the kind of the functionality and the accessibility of the data. Is that similar to traditional methods?
It is and it's not, right? So as I mentioned today, the function of Filecoin is for cold storage, right? So this is not immediately available as hot storage for iterative analysis and for immediate availability, right? So think of it as it augments existing cold storage. That could be tape or backed up in your own data center in your devices, or backed up in the cloud on archive capabilities like I mentioned with AWS or Azure or Google, right? Okay. Again, they're going to charge you a lot more. They're going to charge you outrageous fees to get your data back. There are no fees like that here. The general availability, what we typically do is minimize the amount of our SLAs, how much data you can get back in any one day, right? And so the whole data set's not available to come back in one day. It'll take some time to provide that back, but usually if you want files back, we can archive and very specifically identify files that can be available, like let's say in a couple of hours.
Okay, okay, very good. Now, a question here is kind of cost. Is the cost efficiency that we're seeing, is that kind of inherent to the solution, or is that more of an attack, method of attacking the market?
I mean, it's both. It's inherently cheaper because, again, just like the venture capital money coming in that subsidized prices, the cryptocurrencies subsidize our costs, right? And so it's an additional revenue stream essentially that allows us to bootstrap the business and provide below market costing today to the customers to get into this ecosystem. So that's what enables us to charge, in some cases free, often $1 or $2 per terabyte per month, versus the up to hundreds of dollars of terabyte per month. But a lot of the archive prices are $1 to $2, but you don't have the availability, you don't have the replication. And if you're paying for one copy with us, you can often get multiple copies for free, right? Okay. So the other storage providers are not going to charge to replicate that data.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay, Vince, I have a question. I think this is probably for you. Someone's asking, is Helium, the long fly, does that work with no power to deliver power? They've heard that it can work with a low power or no power situation for the device.
Yeah, it's actually a great question. I'm glad it was asked, because if you look at Bitcoin mining, right, which can be power hungry and can be thousands of dollars, right? We're talking $1 to $2 for these devices per month. It's not a problem there at all. So that's one of the best parts about it. It's actually a sustainable way to go to market. Another thing I want to mention on this, I think that's really important, just because I think it's sort of an elephant out there in the room, is the concept of blockchain and crypto, right? So I just want to say that blockchain, when you talk about blockchain and the technology, I think sometimes it gets a bad rap. Here's a couple examples. Crypto is the currency, blockchain is the technology. And so here's some examples. In this LongFi example I gave, again, it happens to be that these things can be miners, these gateways, but they don't have to be, right? Think about it, the merits of the network. And so what happens essentially is that it helps the IoT network, like I was showing, and that's really what it's about, right? So forget about the crypto conversation there. Let's distance that, because a lot of people get that in their head. Similarly with the storage, right? Michael talked about savings and significant savings on, AWS, Azure, Google. Well, dollar savings are dollar savings, right? So at the end of the day, I think it's important to kind of dispel that myth, because I think a lot of people out there are attached to that. They connect them all the time. And I think we need to look at disconnecting those things. So I wanted to chime in.
Right. Yeah, again, to reiterate kind of what Vince just said, the blockchain, even if the cryptocurrency didn't exist, we would still be on the blockchain, right? And exactly. that auditing capability is very unique. There's no other storage capability anywhere in the world that does that, right? And it proves that the data has not been changed. And so it's a very specific application of blockchain that really has nothing to do with cryptocurrency, right? We happen to have some incentive mechanisms that are fueled by cryptocurrency but they're independent and they're not really relevant to a customer. All the customer sees is this audit that comes out every day that's showing them, here's your data, it's not changed.
Right. Maybe this is for Katie. What other areas kind of are we seeing blockchain be used that we're not kind of seeing here? Just to kind of give that, reemphasize that, this isn't a crypto thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So blockchain, if you want to think of it, it's like a horizontal where you have all these respective industry verticals. Blockchain is an industry. You'll hear folks that are like myself calling it the blockchain industry. However, it's a horizontal, and it's certainly affecting every major industry vertical that you can think of, from money, from data, from connectivity. And these are the foundations of what make the internet, right? It's just the next version of a more secure, decentralized, and distributed internet that provides the capability to have ownership of that internet, which we don't presently have without blockchain technology and these incentive mechanisms. So another big hasn't been discussed here that certainly is utilizing blockchain technology today is the shipping and logistics industry. For example, there have been case studies that have been done where, for example, like if there's a food that has gone bad, it's taken at times like over a week to track and locate where the origins were of the fruit that might have gone bad. Whereas with blockchain technology, because you have an immutable transmission of data all through that storyline there, they were able to track it down in 6 minutes. So, I mean, it's significantly cutting out the middle layer that we have in this previous Web 2 world. And it's automating it through technologies with smart contract technologies and things of that sort.
I believe we're seeing it in apparel, in the apparel industry too, where people want to do the same thing. They want to have transparency of where materials came from and labor that was used, and kind of blockchain is being used to keep track of that too. I've seen some instances. We're kind of jumping around a little bit, but that's because we have covered a lot and there's a lot of exciting things. But I have a question about the tune filters, Vince, tune out the harmonics. Is this kind of a one-time sale, like a device sale, or do the deployments usually involve several devices, and kind of how does that work as far as the partners?
Great question. Yeah. So what happens is there's several different types of panels that can be accessed, a 240 or a 480, right? So there's a different device for each type of solution, and each panel at the facility would need to have a filter. One other nice thing I want to mention about it is, even though these devices cost like about $800 to $1,300, they have a shared savings model which actually makes it so there's no cost at all. They install them for free and they just share the savings with you, which is obviously nice. That OpEx model is pretty nice right now when in this up market.
Okay.
So
very good. And we're going to shift back to kind of, I think, to the data centers, looking at blockchain and looking at PiKNiK. What kind of CapEx for a data center that would like to get involved and part of being part of the storage, one of the storage partners?
Yeah, so it's typically entry level infrastructure that could be maybe half a petabyte is approximately $50,000 to $75,000, right? We actually sell a 5 petabyte node that's approximately $300,000 to give you rough numbers. Please reach out to me at michael@piknik.com if you want more information on how, if you're a storage provider today or a data center operator, how to get involved with this, right? Because we run this free accelerator program that's very, very robust. It teaches everyone both the business and the technical aspects as to how to get involved with this, right? It's a very cool environment. There's, the cool thing about this I always pitch is that there's 3 ways to get data. Traditionally, every data center operator today or storage provider has to find their own customers. They have to do sales and marketing, things like this, tactics like this, have channel environments and go to events and all that. On top of still doing that, you can, the Protocol Labs brings data sets to us in the ecosystem, and then we share data amongst each other, right? So it's this cooperative environment where we bring data to each other. And it's a way to bootstrap your business. You don't have to sell more customers, right? There's data out there to bring to you. Right. So please reach out to me to learn more about that.
Very good. Okay, we have one more question that just kind of came in. Is LoRaWAN using radio frequencies for connectivity?
Absolutely, yes. It uses a radio network, yes.
Okay, gentlemen, unless you have any parting words, maybe we can go around. Vince, Michael, or Katie. I think that's it for questions right now. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Again, we appreciate you coming on here and exposing our audience to these exciting opportunities that we expect to hear a lot more from later. Again, I think we want to pop up the contact information before we head out. So if anybody would like to contact Vince or Michael offline, please feel free to do. Also, with this webinar will be on demand and available through Channel Vision and the website. Just kind of look us up. And until next time, again, thank you, Michael. Thank you, Vince.
All right, thank you.
Next time, guys.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Katie, as well.
Thank you all.
All right. Goodbye, everyone.